I am so excited to be here with all of you today. I'm Kaylin Costell. I'm here with Nura Rachelle and Mara Guerrero and Jamie Goldstein. And we are here to bring you a roundtable of cosmic insights on this upcoming equinox and the following month of the Libra energies while the sun's in Libra and everything else that's going on because is there ever a lot? It's really cool. So I'm going to start with the equinox because that's the day that the sun enters 0 degrees Libra. And it's interesting that it is in a place in the sky currently that can only happen about every 26,000 years, that this point will be aligned in this place in the sky, and that is the North Galactic Pole. Now, we talk a lot in the astrology work that I do about how the December solstice is on the galactic cross at the galactic center, and the summer solstice or the June solstice, depending on your wherever what hemisphere you're in, is at the galactic edge, where the galactic plane crosses the ecliptic. Well, in a 90-degree angle from that are the north and south galactic pole. So of course the equinoxes are going to be at the poles. And something that may not be readily known is that a constellation that represents or kind of directs you to that part of the sky is Coma Bernice. And what I love about her is that in her story, she wants her husband to come back from some war he's in, and so she makes a promise to the gods if he comes back alive that she will sacrifice her hair. And so he comes back alive, and she has like the most beautiful hair in all the land that everyone's just like enamored with. It's like her crowning jewel, her crowning glory kind of thing. And so her husband comes back alive, and she cuts off all her hair and lays it on the altar. And when she tells her husband, he's really upset. So he wants to go and retrieve it, and it's gone. They can't find it. Somebody stole it. They don't know. But some priest shows up and says, "Oh no, I'll show you where the gods took that hair." And they go out that night. He said, "Come back tonight when the stars are out." And he points to this constellation, Coma Bernice, it's now called, of where it looks like hair. Like there's so many misty little stars in the sky. And so one of the things that's interesting is about how hair is representative of energy, of strength, of all kinds of different things. And sometimes it's said that if you cut off all your hair, you can like create a new energy field for yourself. I've done that a few times, but I love my long hair. Hence, I love that story. Anyway, so the sun is rising here. You can't see it at this time of the year. When we get to the spring equinox, you'll be able to see it really well. But just so you know that that's part of the story, and there's many, many myths that connect to hair that also talk about going into multidimensional realms. This one's from the earth to the sky, that kind of thing. So the equinox sun is activating these sort of a multidimensional aspect, and we can see that even more when we look at the fact that the sun is rising due east and setting due west all over the planet when we're at the equinox. Equal balance of day and night. And so let me just think about this for a second. The balance of day and night, the sun going basically across the equator of the earth. That's where it's located at the time of any equinox. And what many sort of traditions, ancient cultures, they recognized how important that was. And in fact, at Chaco Canyon, they built a roadway in their main site so that the sun was rising and lit up that roadway the whole entire day and set lighting up that roadway. That was how important it was to them. They also have in their, they had a petroglyph with the way the sun would come through, and it'd create a dagger of light through the center of the spiral. And so they were tracking it that way. At Chichen Itza, at the pyramid Kukulkan, when the sun rises, it lights up the serpent and of the pyramid at the equinox, only at the equinox. And then there's other places around the planet. Those are just a couple of examples of how important that was. The Sacred Order of the Golden Dawn had a belief that when the sun was at the equinox points and rising and over the equator across the earth, it was lowering the magnetic field of the earth, and it was a time when ceremonies were more powerful as a result. Now, ceremonies can be powerful for lots of reasons at lots of times, but this was just one that they tuned into specifically, and they had specific ceremonies they did at that time. So if we're tuned into that, watching the sun rise or set at the equinox, if you have any place you can go that you can just kind of get that sense of where the sun is rising and setting on the horizon, awesome. Now here in Tucson, we have a sun circle, and what it does is creates windows of light. So as the sun rises, it creates a window of light on an opposite wall, and then that window of light just crosses the circle until it just gets too high, and then it stops. But as it gets ready to set, it recreates the window of light on the other side. And it's really magical to kind of be in a place like that, to have that experience with the equinox. Now, so equinoxes are important, and I just also wanted to share a it's a chant that you can use, and it's in an article that I've written, and I will put that in the show notes. But I just wanted to share this chant to the priestesses, or to the equinox. I'm sorry, but it's a chant of the priest or priestess in honor of the equinox, and it comes from Diana Paxson's book, Ancestors of Avalon, and this is how it goes. Let day be bounded by the night, dark be balanced by the light. Earth and sky and sun and sea a circled cross shall ever be. Let sorrow make a space for joy, let grief with jubilance alloy. Step by step to make our way, till darkness shall unite with day. Each season by the next is bound, meetings, partings form the round. The sacred center is our frame, where all is changing, all the same. Moving we become more still, impassioned we are bound by will, turning in perpetuity till time becomes eternity. And so that's, it's helping us to recognize that our experience of time, cyclical time, and the seasons and all of that, and how we can remember to keep a sacred connection to that. And it is life-changing. It's just so fun. So now the other thing I want to share is that at the end of, as the sun is reaching 29 degrees Libra, on October 22nd, it's going to be exactly conjunct Venus. And so Venus is in the underworld the whole time up, it's going into the underworld prior to the equinox. It's going to be in the underworld where there is a death and rebirth taking place, where she has died to who she thinks she is, so she can be reborn to who she really is, and letting go and releasing everything that is in the way of her being more and her strength and power, and her also compassion, because this is taking place a lot in the Libra realm. So on October 22nd, when Venus and the sun come together, it also represents a rebirth point. So she's going to start moving in the direction of coming back out of the underworld and into the evening sky. That won't happen until December, but she's on that trajectory from that point forward. So one of the reasons I wanted to share this is because back in 2006, on October 22nd, my husband Peter and I got married, and we chose that date specifically because Venus was conjunct the sun. 16 years later is coming back, because Venus comes back every 8 years. Mars won't come back to be with Venus until 16 more years, but anyway, Mars was also there, and we chose it because it was having them off the world stage. They were not visible in the morning or the evening or any time. They were with the sun, and the sun is the source of light and life for our planet. It is the sun. It gives us energy. It allows us to have so many experiences. Hence, again, why the equinox is important, because tuning into the sun And so the sun was infusing Mars and Venus with a new way of relating back then. And we did our sacred marriage ceremony secretly. We didn't tell anybody, except the people that were there, about it, because we wanted to set our own field for our relationship and our intentions and what our commitments were. And it was so powerful. I thought it was amazing at the time. Here we are coming up on the 16-year anniversary, and it is more amazing than I could have possibly imagined. So I share this with you so that you can have a sense of what you can do ceremonially and how we can work with the timing to have that support our intention. And so hopefully that inspires you. And I'll also put a link into an article that talks about the secret wedding, the secret, our secret union, sacred union, secret wedding. And so you can get more if you're interested in that. High magic. Now, the other thing is we're all going to answer a question. What do you think we are being collectively initiated into? And so part of it is, I think at this time, with all this Libra energy happening, is how do we have a healthy constructive relationship with ourselves so we can have a healthy constructive relationship with others, so we have collaboration, cooperation, co-creation. And here we are, these beautiful women have come together with me to create this collaboration. It's like, oh my gosh. And as I was saying before we started recording, I feel like we are here to bring you insights and information in the ways that the priestesses of the past may have done that. And that's just so exciting. So it's that. And the other thing is that I feel like we're being initiated into, once we are able to see this part. So a lot maybe has to be cleared in order for that to happen. So any intentions are, what happens immediately is anything in the way of that intention comes up to get cleared. So, but greater love, compassion, courage, and kindness is what we're being initiated into, so that we can have a healthy relationship with ourselves, with each other, and the earth. So with that, I'm going to pass this off to my beautiful sister, Nura Rachelle.
Thank you, Kaylin. I absolutely love that. I also believe we're being initiated into greater compassion, and it being compassionate curiosity with all of, especially with this Mercury retrograde and the whole retrograde corridor we're in right now. There's so much invitation inward, and I view that always as a good time to do ancestral healing. I find it so helpful to remember that we're not doing this alone. And especially, of course, the Libra season, the equinox, it is a time of collaboration and remembering we're not here just evolving by ourselves. And we're also not meant to feel like we're evolving by ourselves. We need to feel this connection. And especially with, Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, there's been a lot of closing down, as you all know, over these past couple of years. And I do witness a lot of people finding new ways of connecting around the globe. It's like, the silver linings and the blessings in disguise of meeting new people and finding new places to hang out. But also this life is happening so fast and there's so much information to process that sometimes it can feel like, okay, we're really stunned and we just have to be here in the moment processing everything. And that can create an interesting relational block, I've noticed, where we're just trying to figure out our own life. We're just trying to figure ourselves out, know what our next step is. I know for me, I tend to really enjoy planning things out, but lately I've been really wanting to just go with the flow and then not really plan that much, not really plan more than a month ahead. And that is serving my sanity and also helping me to be compassionately curious about, well, what wants to come up right now and who do I want to reach out to right now? So I also think we're being initiated even more into living in the present moment and using our body awareness to discern and discover, well, what's next? Like, where do I get to go next? What do I get to open up into next? So it feels very exciting in that way. So the astrology of the equinox that I think is really going to ground us into what we create next is this Uranus and the North Node on the ascendant in the United States ingress chart. So I know even if you're not in the States, you might be asking, like, well, why is this important? right now, with especially, Neptune in Pisces, we're really looking at the global connections and how one place influences every other place. So that feels really important, and that's why I'm bringing it up. And also, I live in the United States, so that feels very relevant for me personally. But no matter where you are, you could actually take this as some, soul work or homework and see, where is this North Node Uranus happening, in the ingress chart of this equinox season. And then how does that pertain to the collective of where you live? But at least in the United States, anytime that there's a planet conjunct the ascendant, it really is like the lens and the filter through which we experience everything. So of course, this is personally, but as a collective, we are very much going through an initiation of physical, tangible matter. And how do we engage with it? How do we navigate change and liberation and volatility of markets and cycles, and still manage to stay grounded and still manage to feel safe and secure when there's so many reasons to not feel safe or secure. And that feels like an opportunity to really look at, how do we get to be the more secure, confident version of ourselves, even when we can't control South Node Scorpio, when we can't control what's going on outside of us. Really coming back into that, well, what's my sphere of influence? And who are the people that I can also reach out to? Because what influences the ascendant is also going to bring in that descendant automatically. Like, again, we're not alone. We're not supposed to do this all by ourselves. We don't have to have all the answers by ourselves, which I also think this Mercury retrograde period is going to remind us. I also think it's interesting, the strength of the 18th degree. So the Uranus Mars North Node conjunction a few months ago happened at that 18 degrees Taurus. But we're also going to have Saturn station direct during Libra season at 18 degrees Aquarius. That's really interesting. And this 18th degree in degree theory by Nikola Stoyanovich rules Virgo. So here we have, again, this energy of discernment and what's helpful, what's not helpful, separating the wheat from the chaff. And I think this brings in the realm of ideas and consciousness and where we're putting our focus, where we're putting our attention. I pulled the card, the Magician, and this card can always go a lot of different ways. But from the most empowered place, I tend to see this card as this reminder that we have everything that we need, and that it has a lot to do with what we're choosing, what we're deciding, where we're putting our attention, where we're putting our energy. And also being aware of the fact that there are a lot of lies out there. There is a lot of deception. There's a lot to be confused by. And so what can we kind of narrow in the focus of? This is kind of combining that 18th degree Virgo energy, releasing what doesn't serve us. So Saturn stationing direct, I think, is going to bring in this new awareness of how we can lay a new foundation. So we're in a really interesting time because we're in this alchemical underworld of Venus where we're going through an initiation. And I do feel like it helps to know we're going through an initiation because it makes everything easier. We're not thinking like, oh my gosh, my life's just falling apart and it's all my fault. And, I must have made all these mistakes. It's like, well, maybe that which needs to leave our life is just, we're being helped. It's leaving by design, and we get to choose, okay, what am I going to do with this spaciousness? What wants to come in now? And I do think that with this Saturn stationing direct, we'll have a new idea for clarity around what are the next practical, tangible steps. And it's okay to not fully know what the next steps are just yet, but to trust. I think that's also a big part of this. I did want to point out too that in the ingress chart of the United States, Pluto will be on the midheaven. And Pluto has been doing his thing in Capricorn since 2008. We've been transforming our economy for, a decade and a half at this point, and obviously much longer. But we're at this sort of culminating point where we know there's no going back to how things used to be. And at the very least, there's no going back to it, a certain illusion of how things were. The illusion has been broken. So now we get to come forth with more clarity and more perhaps practicality with this Capricorn energy, which I think is also being very supported by the Venus Metagoddess cycle that we're in right now with Capricorn. We're really looking at what are the traditions that have served us. Also, what is the history? Here comes in that ancestral healing again. Like, what did our ancestors go through? how did they come to where we are now? And then how can we add that compassionate curiosity of like, well, of course we got here. Look what happened to all these different people. There was all of these wars. There were so many stories. It helps to realize that there's a reason why we got where we are. It didn't just happen. And there's not really anybody in particular to blame, because everybody was going through their own hard time at a different point in history. And we get to kind of look at that. It's all floating to the surface. And we're just looking at that again with compassionate curiosity. So that feels really potent for this whole season as well. And so really just leaving you with the potential, again, I love how you brought up, Kaylin, the power of the ceremony around these high holy days. I view this time as an opportunity to make quantum leaps in becoming more secure and realizing, again, well, what creates security? Is it what happens outside of me, or is it what I decide from the inside? What is security? And how is that maybe different than safety? Because there's a distinction there, and knowing what that is for yourself. But we can make quantum leaps in our healing and in our awakening, particularly where we have Taurus in our chart. So this North Node, Uranus, Taurus conjunction still happening. And we can really benefit from the Libran energy of harmonization and collaboration, and not only reaching out to other people, but leaning in as well, becoming a little bit more vulnerable and knowing that we can create more security together. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Mar Guerrero. I hope I'm saying your name in the proper accent.
That's okay. I think it's not really easy to say Guerrero in general. So and it's the thing. I think that is the initiation in a way that I want to talk about. It's about new perspectives, new languages, and putting ourselves there. Right? For me, it's harder. This is not my native language. My native language is Spanish. But there is magic in learning a language. At the end of the day, astrology is also a language that I'm sure that for the four of us is the language of our hearts and our souls, and that we share with each other. And that Mercury with the sun is also telling us, like, how can we open our hearts to new ways of knowing reality and wisdom? And something that for me, like listening to both of you and then before recording, there is this feminine wisdom that doesn't come only from the mind. It comes from the womb and the body. And I think one of the things that astrologers, especially like female astrologers, are waking up is that astrology is not just something that you learn in a book or that your teacher is telling you. It's also what you are feeling in every transit. And it's not only about the future, it's about now, right? Like what is now saying about the future, what is now saying about the past. So this ceremonial energy of how can we open ourselves from the logic of the mind to the altered states of consciousness. Something that becomes a lot for me with Libra is the symbol of the infinity. Like, is this balance between we don't need to choose. We can do both, and there is this strength in knowing that we can be logical and rational and read what other people have said before us, and then we can use that as a means to inspire our intuition. And in that way, we are creating with the moments, because like the astrology is evolving as well with us. It's not fixed, right? Like the constellations are moving, and there is something there with also Saturn trying Mars that is building new structures. So I feel that during 2020, we had the North Node in Gemini. We had the Venus cycle starting in Gemini, and we saw what wasn't working. And now with the Mars in Gemini and the retrograde, I feel, what do you need to learn in order to build something for humanity? And open up to, we are a family, right? Like there are no difference between being in this country, another country. who made up the borders within countries. So all of this is like being restricted, like there are no borders, there are mountains. So I come from the Mediterranean Sea, but that is a lot more powerful than saying I come from Spain, right? It's just, there is a land, there is a mountain. So I feel there is this initiation, and during October, it's very interesting that there is a grand trine when Venus goes more into Libra, and it goes into the underworld and die in October. Mars is in Gemini, and then Saturn is in Aquarius. So it's telling us like, how can we find this balance again between the masculine and the feminine, between everything, the rational, the irrational. So we build cultures that they are open to change always, not just like these rigid structures. And yeah, and I feel that is the main thing that I want to say, that there is a call to open to learn new things as well. Like whatever we need it's okay if you are a master in something. It's okay if you are 80 years old. You still can learn something new, right? Like, and then when someone is younger than you, the still can be a master in something. So we open up to listen, and that's something also that with Libra always come to me, like how much do we truly listen to others, or we are just talking, and then when the other person is talking, we are just waiting for us to speak again. So this is something that for me is so natural for people with Libra energy to be good listeners. And for the others, it's like, how can we embrace that from our authenticity so we don't get lost in the other person either? So it's like, I fully listen to you and I'm fully in me and my beliefs as well. So I think that, and the same, it comes again, that symbol of flowing with the others. And now Jamie is going to talk a little bit about this and everything.
Thank you so much. I've just so valued listening to each of your wisdom and brilliance that's been coming through here. And the question, what do I think we're being initiated into collectively and personally? I very much kind of goes along with what Nura, what you were sharing, going to me that Uranus North Node conjunction. And I think we're being initiated into accessing more of our infinite, multi-dimensional nature, that we are all here to be magical, creative beings and co-creators with the great mystery, which is, I'm pulling in that inspiration from you, Kaylin, as well. And so much of us through our own, so many of us through our own conditioning that we've received from childhood, that we've lost connection with how we are all magical co-creators with the great mystery. And many of us have forgotten our creative nature. And so I feel like that's one of the things with this Uranus North Node conjunction is it's like opening up the wild genius of our bodies, turning on, switching on our perhaps like latent things within our DNA, and the genius of our bodies is switching on. And I feel like we can actually tap into the genius of our physical bodies by like streaming in that Uranian, divine consciousness to really turn on our ability to co-create beauty and magic and in this world. And with bringing in the context of this Libra equinox, I very much see it as relationships are the pathway to support that. And particularly, because Venus is in Virgo at the time of this Libra equinox, sovereign relationships with Virgo, where we're being initiated into being whole into ourselves. And this paradigm and Mercury with the sun there together at 0 degrees of Libra on this Libra equinox. And Mercury has been doing retrogrades in air elemental signs for the last, this year and the year before. This year, the retrogrades have been half air and going into half earth, but it's been a grander like air elemental year. And that's bringing in a new paradigm of relationships, the air element being thought, perception, relationships. And so I love that this last air elemental retrograde, because the next one's going to be fully in earth in Capricorn. It's like seeding on some sense. It's like a precursor, I think, like what you were sharing with Caitlin, because to me, the really big thing to be excited about is that Venus, the Venus Sun conjunction at 29 degrees of Libra. But like, this is kind of like a precursor, really seeding this new relationship paradigm. And so much of it, especially when I'm looking at Venus and Virgo there, how can we really be whole to ourselves, to me, which is really being in our truth. So showing up to relationships where I'm showing up to relationships fully and my truth. I'm embodying my truth, Virgo. I'm expressing my truth. And I'm holding space for others to show up to the relationship as well as sovereign beings, embodying their truth, expressing their truth. And so much, I think, is even connecting in with this Uranus North Node conjunction, because Uranus is very much energy and Kundalini energy. There's a lot here about really connecting in with those that we're truly in vibrational alignment with. And I think also kind of the strong Aquarian energy that we have as well, when we're truly connecting in with those that we're vibrationally in alignment with, there's just that resonance where we can be in our truth, others can be in their truth, we can hold space for that. And I think there's just so much about creating this new sovereign relationship paradigm. And sovereign, and to me, it's like when we are in energetic alignment, what someone else's needs are, that's going to be in alignment for me to meet their needs. And when my needs, they're going to be in alignment to meet my needs. And so there's this big shift of not forcing other people to meet our needs when they're not. And it's like really allowing for I think energetically things to come into alignment where we can really just really connect in with our soul tribe, those that we really want to build this new earth together with. And the card I pulled for the equinox they actually two jumped out together, was the Three of Pentacles. And with this card, there's the stonemason working on the cathedral and consulting with the two architects. And this is very much about sovereign relationship, because the two architects, which are much older than the stonemason, really value the stonemason's expertise. The stonemason is really valuing the architect's expertise as well. And so they're coming together knowing that we don't have to do everything alone. I don't have to figure out every single thing. I can connect with essentially my soul tribe to where we can collaborate together and share our resources and expertise and knowledge together. I think this also kind of connects in with that Taurus Uranus North Node conjunction. And so this is this actually is a very Virgo vibe to me, because like Virgo is a sign where we refine our architectural design in many senses. And so there's this energy of this card shows teamwork and collaboration and listening and being curious and coming together, honoring others' wisdom and their expertise, bringing your own, and valuing how they can be different. And it's actually magical when we honor other people's values or their wisdom and expertise, where there doesn't need to be a competition. We can create something magical and we all bring our own magic together. So, and then 3 being like the magical third, right? Alchemically. And then this card pull just jumped out as well, which is the 10 of Cups. And to me, this shows us if we're going into the season with this mindset of collaboration, connection, right? Finding our allies, nurturing our connections, it will lead to, this is a card that's like divine fulfillment and emotional fulfillment and happiness. And a lot of it does show alignment in relationships. Now, I'm not saying this season will be a walk in the park, right? We have lots of initiations that we're going through, especially Venus and her alchemical underworld journey. We've got a lot of retrograde energy. But to me, if we're connecting in with our allies and truly nurturing relationships and how we can show up more to relationships in our truth, in our sovereignty, that we can really create something beautiful here. And the other transit I wanted to speak to that's been really catching my attention is with this equinox chart, Venus is at 22 Virgo, and she's opposite Neptune retrograde at 23 Pisces. So this is really bringing in a strong Virgo Pisces energetic into this equinox. And I know myself, I'm already feeling the kind of that Piscean energy because we've got Mercury's in retrograde, a lot of retrograde energy, and we're having a lot of Neptunian activation. So I'm already very Neptunian in the first place, but I'm kind of having that like here but not here kind of energy. I'm really putting a lot of effort into grounding and like being present here in my body right now, because I kind of feel like my mind is kind of in the in-between space and other realms. And I'm personally at the moment kind of feel that Neptunian kind of fog type of energy. And we have, I mean, really with all the retrograde energy, especially Mercury in retrograde at the time of the equinox, and Venus will be opposite Neptune. This is really a call to dive below, trying to figure out reality and things with like reason and logic and analysis alone, and to really drop into our heart space, Venus, and allowing for our it's like to really navigate reality, we need to really be dropping into our deep heart space and intuitively, I think, really being deeply connected and trusting our intuition, even in our body wisdom, right? Venus and Virgo, even when things don't make sense on the rational, logical level, this is some of the medicine. And what I'm really interested in is I noticed, like I actually looked it up, Neptune is very close with this equinox to the degree where the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction was in Pisces in April. And now Jupiter's retrograded just a little past that point with the equinox. So it's reactivating whatever was seated in that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which for my interpretation is it's in Pisces, right? It's opening up, expanding the floodgates to connect in with a higher stream of consciousness. So to connect in with our higher vision, our higher dream, our higher inspiration that we want to dream through. And now Jupiter's in retrograde is in Aries at the time of this equinox, but retrograding back into Pisces to dip back in. It's like we're needing to perhaps refining the design a little bit on what is that big inspiration that came through. And so I see with Venus opposing that point that especially this whole equinox to solstice season, that we'll have this opportunity to really reconnect in with what is that higher dream, that higher vision, that higher inspiration. And with Venus there, how do we ground it into our bodies? Because that's the magic with Virgo. It's like bringing spirit down and into our physical bodies, where our physical body, our beautiful vessel, is the bridge between the as above and so below, and to channel that energy in and to create magic from the inside out, essentially. And because Venus is moving into her beautiful, that alchemical underworld journey, and like Kaylin, like you shared, we're dying to who we thought we were, to really being reborn into the truth of who we are, that I feel like that polarity, that tension point that might come up with Virgo, and it's something we might be working on through this season, is with some of the, and I'm like obsessed with Virgo energy, but if we're looking at maybe some of the underworld experiences of Virgo, it's where are our like really critical self-limiting thinking and beliefs about ourselves? Where are we getting in the way of ourselves, right? So with Virgo, it's typically this, it could be a core self-limiting belief around, I have to do things perfectly, or I am fundamentally flawed. I have to, yeah, I mean, it's usually, and I have my Virgo stuff. I have strong Virgo energy. It's something like self-worth can be tied to what are we doing productively? What are we, how perfect are we being? How much excellence? And so I feel like a lot of that is going to get stripped away, that our medicine is in our being, just being who we are, being in our heart essence, really grounding and holding our presence, that we don't have to do anything at all. Just being who we are is our magic. And that's the number one thing we can do to ground in that inspiration from that Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And so I think I have my Pisces Mercury. I don't know how long I've talked, so I hope I haven't gone too long, but cards I pulled for that transit, Venus retrograde opposite Neptune, High Priestess, 3 like literally jumped out together. High Priestess. So she's the High Priestess. You know, she is that guardian between the seen and the unseen realms, which shows going into the mystery, going below logical linear thought, and going into those intuitive realms. 9 of Swords, I think this speaks to those self-limiting beliefs about needing to be perfect, right? Releasing those. And then the Fool, when we do that, we're opening up to infinite possibility here. So yeah, that's kind of the main inspirations that were coming through. Thank you so much for this opportunity to all gather here and share.
I just want to end this by saying you're all brilliant. Thank you so much. I love this so much. And we're going to be doing this as prior to the sun's ingress into the next sign. So stay tuned, because we're going to have more magic for you, and hopefully everything that everyone shared, which has been so good, just gives you some insight and inspiration into how you can work with these mysteries yourself, because that's what it's really all about. We need each other. We need to do this together, and it's time.